G'day humans, Chris Stead here. Today we're doing a review of the Beatbot Aquasense Pro wireless pool robot. Let's dive in. So summer is in full swing here in Australia at the moment. I can't tell you how hot I am just sitting here baking in that classic Sydney summer sun. And look, pool robots are absolutely something that you're going to want for this time of the year, especially with all the storms that come through in the evening, but a lot of debris into the pool, wrecking those family swimming pools. You need one of these bad boys. Now, back in the day, we used to use, obviously, the creepy crawlies used to go around, and then that kind of leveled up to those robots that were all kind of attached by cables into a, you know, like a unit somewhere off to the side. And those things were great, they worked really well, but they were fundamentally flawed by the fact that that tether was such a weak point and would frequently break and cost a heck of a lot of money to get fixed. So now we've stepped it up again, and we're starting to see these wireless pool robots emerge in the market. And so we're running the gauntlet with lithium-ion batteries now instead. Now, there's quite a few that have arrived for that 24-25 summer season here in Australia, and there's plenty more that have already been announced that are going to be coming further into 2025. Now, I've previously reviewed the IPA S1 Scuba Pro, which you can find on the channel. I've also got the Zodiac Freerider IQ 1000 here that I'm going to be reviewing next, and there's more to come. But today, it's about the Beatbot Aquasense Pro. Does this thing deliver? It's come out of China. They're a pool robot specialist as a company, and they're hoping to make a big impact here in the country. Now, let's start with the price. Now, these things come in at a recommended retail price of $3,499 here in Australia. So that's a lot of money. Now, these things generally cost a lot of money, but you know, the Zodiac Freerider I was just telling you about, I think that comes in around the $3,200 mark. The top of the IPA range comes in about $2,700, but that IPA S1 Scuba Pro is half the price of this, and you can get robots that are good robots for less than $2,000. So that's okay. It's okay to be expensive at the premium end if you're offering that premium experience, and that's what I'm going to be taking us through in this review. And I'm going to do most of this review in real time, so we're going to actually just go back to when I first threw this in a pool a few months ago now, and those initial experiences, and then how I kind of came to understand its pros and its cons through the process of using it over the first couple of months of summer. Now, first, let's dive into the specifications and see what you're going to get for that $3,499. Although I will say, before we dive into that, that I have seen it as low as $3,099. It's the lowest I've seen it. I just checked then, and it was available for $3,199. So you probably get at least $300 or $400 off the recommended retail price, depending on when you get it and how lucky you are, I guess. But even that's still obviously at the premium range. Okay, let's jump into the Beatbot Aquasense Pro specifications. So Beatbot claim they are the world's first 5-in-1 robotic pool cleaner. So it does the floor, the walls, the waterline, the surface, which is pretty impressive to have that in the device as well, and it offers a clarification solution. That's number 5. But I'll go into that a bit more in a second. Now, the path optimization is driven by a 1.8 gigahertz quad-core processor. It's got a 5,000 gallons per hour suction, which isn't overly special. Like it's decent, but it's not, I've seen higher. It's got front and bottom suction holes. So the bottom obviously for doing the walls and the floors, but that front one can then do the surface as well. Now, it's got dual filters. One's 250 micron and one's 150 micron. And as I'll go into when we talk about performance, that's a bit of a shame because I think we need finer filters here in Australia, just because we have, especially near the coast, we have so much sand in the air and dust in the air. And so something that's going to catch that dust and that sand a bit better is probably more optimal. Now, the basket in size is 3.7 litre. It's got 4 brushes in a dual roller setup, so 2 up front, 2 up the back, using a Nona Drive 9-motor system. Now, there are 20 smart sensors, including dual gyroscopes and dual ultrasonic AI sensors. The Sonic Sense ultrasonic AI pool mapping and obstacle avoidance Clever Nav are also in there as well. Now, it can do up to a 300 meter squared pool, and I gotta say, the battery life on this thing is excellent. So it's got a 10,400 milliamp hour battery, which promises up to 5 hours of floor cleaning between charges and can do up to 9.5 hours of surface cleaning. So yeah, pretty impressive there. Now it works to a depth of 3 meters, which is a little bit capped, I would think, but will sort out almost all your residential properties anyway. It's got 5 different modes. So you've got quick mode, so it's just going to do a quick run of it, standard mode, pro mode, eco mode, and custom, which you can set up in the app. And basically, this is just going to work how thorough it is and how much of those kind of wall, floor, surface it's going to be involved in part of it. Whereas the eco mode basically allows you just to throw it in the pool and leave it there for a bunch of days, and it'll just go around every now and again and just sort things out for you. It uses caterpillar movement as opposed to like wheels, so it's got the kind of tank style caterpillar movement. It's IP68 rated, as you'd hope, so you can throw it in the water. Like I said, it's got app support, so it has got Wi-Fi built in as well. It works on all surfaces, so it doesn't matter what type of pool you've got. It's a bit heavy. It's on the heavier side at 11 kilograms, and you do notice that weight when you pick it up and carry it around. And it comes with a 2-year warranty, which I think underdoes it at this price point, but is actually pretty good for the space. A lot of them only have the 1-year warranty. So at least it's got 2 years, but really the $3,500 product, you'd hope for a bit more than that nowadays. Okay, well, let's have a closer look at the design then of the Beatbot Aquasense Pro. It's a beautiful looking machine. I really love the look of it with its kind of metallic grey blue finish, and the way that it has these kind of jets you can see here kind of all over the place, kind of pushing out in different ways. It's very, very cool. The ultrasonic AI opening at the end here, where that's your flap that goes into the suction when you're doing surface. It's got the caterpillar design down the sides, as you can see, which just I feel provides better traction, especially on the walls and just when turning around. It's kind of a bit more efficient than the old wheeled system I've seen on some of the others. The dual brush system, front and back, is really good too. Now I've set it up like this so that you can see the dock. So this is really, really good. Some of the cheaper models that you'll get, they don't come with a dock, and they can even have like ports that open up to power. Whereas here, you've got these magnetic, you can see there, those 2 magnetic patches, 1, 2, that then just go into these things. So you never have to open the machine up to power it, which I much prefer because it's heaps better on your psychology, I guess you could say, when you're not freaking out the entire time about whether or not you've sealed it properly and whether the water's gotten in. In fact, when I was reviewing the APA, I forgot to close it up once and threw it in the pool, and then had to dry it out. It did still work though. Now I'll get rid of the dock, so we can just lie it down flat. As you can see, there's some more vents kind of coming out the back here. It's a pretty mean looking machine. Now accessing the basket is really quite easy. Just like this, and out she comes. That's as simple as it is. Even though it's got the 2 filters, the 2 different filters, it's kind of double-sided. I don't know if you can see down there. You can see there's one side and the other side. So that's how it's got the 250 and the 150 micron filters. There's no separate filter like I've seen in some of the other ones where you get that smaller sand particle pickup. But pretty easy to rinse out, pretty straightforward, very sturdy. And as you can see inside, there's nothing overcomplicated. It literally just sits back down like so, and that's that. And it closes really well first time, every time, which is good. Now over here you also have the clarification unit. Now that's in at the moment and got stuff, so I'm not going to pull it out, but it's quite easy. You just rip the foil end off, push it in, and she's done. So that's all really effective. Quite easy to utilize the functions. So you've got your modes here. So you've got, as you can see, you've got floor and walls, you've got floor, walls, and surface. Well, that could be waterline, and eco mode as well. So it's quite easy to operate. Now, obviously there's an app as well, but the app itself doesn't really have too much inside going for it. It's not too reliant on the app. You can just basically just run everything off the front here, and that will do it for you. Now, the only kind of downside to the design, which is otherwise I think is really, really cool, is the weight. So this thing weighs quite a bit, 11 kilos. Like you really notice when you pick it up. So it is heavy to lift, and it also tends to trap water in some really interesting places. So when you put it up on the dock, even when you think it's fully dried, and then you get it up like this and you put it in the station, you'd be surprised by how often water just keeps falling out of it from different areas. And that's only a concern in that you'll often have the charging dock sitting somewhere where there's power, which might be inside, and yeah, some water can leak out. But anyway, let's look at the design and let's get into my experience using the device. Alright, so my opening experiences with the Beatbot Aquasense Pro being a little bit frustrating. It took a few goes to get the app to actually install. If you scan the QR code on the front, it doesn't actually install the app. It says it does, but it doesn't. It just installs, I don't know, a weird version of the app where it doesn't work. You actually have to go back through the Play Store and download it again, like through the Play Store for it to work. Then I could not get the firmware to update. It just won't do it. It wants a 2.4 gigahertz network, which first I had it on a 5 gigahertz. I thought that must be it, so I switched over to a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network, which, you know, a lot of punters aren't actually going to know what that is. Yeah, that didn't fix it anyway, so it just refuses flat out to update. So I am worried I'm not going to get the best experience with this. I'll just put her in on the ground floor, so we've got a bit of, like, I don't know, say low to medium mess, a lot of little debris, not too much in the way of dust, I don't think, but hopefully that's coming out in the camera. So we'll see how she goes. It's always a bit of a learning process. So far it just seems to, it's interesting, it actually floats first. I haven't seen one do that before, so it floats and then lowers itself down. It's interesting. But I haven't got it on walls because I've got stairs. Let's see what happens. It's just on floors. It will do the stairs and it will do the water line if you ask it to, which I'll test later. But at the moment I just want to see how it goes to the floor. So status update. Seems to have found its mojo. It's crisscrossing the pool. It's done a pretty good job actually so far. Like half the leaves are already gone. It's only been there for half an hour maybe. So far so good. Reasonably impressed by this. Hopefully it's got a patch there it's missed. Doesn't seem to be blowing too much stuff away from it, which sometimes they do. It's just kind of sucking it in and mulching it up. It doesn't seem to have had any problems yet with big leaves, but yeah. Seems to move quite subtly. There's a lot of water blowing up, but not much blowing out sideways. So it's not dispersing stuff as much as I've seen other robots do. Yeah, so far so good. I guess this means it's done. It's left a bit. It's done a pretty good job overall though. Definitely missed a little bit over there. What's it doing? Here's what it looks like inside, by the way. So a bunch of leaves have somehow ended up here. So outside the basket somehow. It's annoying. Even up on the glass here. The sun. So there it is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sit on the walls. Sitting. See what happens. And then I've got to dump it in the pool. So far it has decided not to go up any walls, which is interesting. So I wonder if it's doing a pass of the floor first. It's kind of hitting all the walls at the wrong angle at the moment. So I don't know if it's just trying to get its bearings. We'll just keep an eye on it, see what happens. Just kind of work, just mapping maybe. Just going, where are all the walls at? Just going to see what happens. It goes over this patch of leaves. But this is a very strange movement, not what I was expecting. And it's moving a little bit about, it's blowing a little bit of it spraying it out a little bit, which I'm not stoked about. But, oh, what's it done there? So it's finally gone. I'll check out this wall. It's turning too early. It's not getting all the way to the wall. You can see all this stuff at the edge of the wall here. And before it really gets to it, jams on the brakes, spins, blows it around a bit. It's not filling me with confidence that it's going to do a good job. Anyway, I'll wait and see. But what's it doing? It's just done 3 laps in a row back there, and pretty much over exactly the same piece of. Like it's moving like, what is it, a millimetre? No, like 5 millimetres maybe. And going again. Doesn't know what's going on, does it? So it's been going for at least an hour and a half now, and it's still in this corner. It's finally left the step, but like the rest of the pool, it hasn't been touched. And it's, you know, it's missed the corner here too, after all that time spent there. So far, I'm very unimpressed. So it started coming back towards this corner again, which has been the whole entire time. Like it won't go down here. So it's kind of typical, but as soon as you do walls, the AI just falls to pieces. This is not just a Beatbot thing. Same thing that Aper did the same thing. Just keeps going back and forth over this bit. Or getting stuck over there, or like it was just here, and it's gone all the way back there and started again. It's not even picking up the leaves. So the Beatbot Aquasense Pro is telling me that it's completed its job. You can see there's huge chunks of the pool that never even touched. Not once. Never even ran over it. Never even came close. Half the pool it didn't touch. So I don't know what's going on, because it's got the latest firmware installed, and it's got enough battery. It's still got green power. It's supposed to last 5 hours. It's been going for probably an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it's done a horrific job. I'll be flat out honest. If I'd be taking it straight back to the store and saying, "Give me my money back right now." I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and put it onto a different setting, because it was on walls and floor and waterline, which never works, because it just never works. I've just never seen it work. It just always ends up either beaching itself or doing a terrible job. So I'm going to put it on the floor only and then see what happens. Naughty boy. Okay, so after spending 2 hours trying to do the walls and completely failing to do the walls and the floors and just leaving heaps of debris in there, it's just spent an hour at best, maybe 45 minutes doing just the floor, and picked up most of the stuff that I missed the first time. It's not the perfect, still definitely some stuff in here. So what I did last time. So it feels like it needs to do it twice for whatever reason. So first run's pretty good, but it needs to do it twice. It doesn't seem to know that. because it leaves just a little bit. I mean, it's picked up most of it. It's a lot better. It's a lot better than it was, but it's not as good as I would expect from a 3,000 plus machine. So I've just given it a second run, like back to back, just to see whether it could pick up the stuff that it missed, and it has. So it's done a pretty good job. A little bit down the corner there it didn't quite get to by the looks of it, but overall it's a lot better looking pool. It doesn't run for very long, so it'd be interesting to see whether or not it's like what's made it. It couldn't have run for more than half an hour. I don't even think half an hour. And it's calling it quits. So I don't know if it's sensing that its basket's full, but I don't think that's the case because there wasn't that much left in there. Whether the battery's just low, or whether it's got a scanner which is saying, hey, I think I've done my job. But yeah, we'll do a few more experiments and see what happens. But yeah, and it does this thing. This is really cool. So it brings itself to the surface, gives itself a bit of a clean and a flush out, and then hangs there so you can come, actually pushes itself into the wall. So it just sits there so you can just come grab it. That's a great feature. I love it. Obviously it'll only do it until the battery goes dead, but yeah, much easier than using a hook. But you can see there, overall, it's a pretty clean looking pool. All right, I'm gonna give it another go. So here we go. We've got a little bit of debris there. So it's a lot less than last time, but there's still lots of fine stuff, plus the stuff that left last time, still sitting in there. But it's not bad. Okay, it's not a horrendous pool. It's got to be able to do this. All right. So it's on. It's on just the floor. It's ready to go. It's been sitting there for 5 seconds. Okay, so it's just finished another round, or it's the latest round, and I think it's done a much better job. So a little bit here it's missed, not much though. It's got that stuff that was in the corner. They're just general marks on the floor. A little bit over there it's missed. It's just hit and miss. So after the last go, it's performed better than I thought it was going to, but it still hasn't done a complete job. I feel like if I put on a second cycle, it'll probably do it, but yeah. Okay, I've got it on surface mode now. So it's just going through and grab those. Pick those up all right. We're slowly picking them up, but that engine at the back tends to blow them away. So it's got to really fluke it, come on. And it's also zigzagging it a weird way. Like it's going horizontal across the park. See how it's moving this? So the water's bouncing off the wall and then moving it away from the view, and as a result, it's not really getting it, but then it's new stuff's blowing it at the same time. And if I guess you had lots of little leaves or flowers, you had the type of pool that kind of got a whole coating of stuff over it, then maybe this feature would be really useful. It's got this guy lined up. It's got to take him. No. Yeah, you got these ones though. You push one to the side and got one of them, and now it's blowing them back into blowing them that way, which is the part that's already done. Yeah, so my performance experience with the Beatbot Aquasense Pro has really been quite interesting. There's plenty of quality of life stuff that I really think is great. Like I really like the way that it does this. So you just put it in and it kind of sorts itself out and takes itself to the bottom. You don't have to push it down by hand or anything like that, which I've seen before. I love how it brings itself to the surface once it's done and just sits there and waits for you to pick it up. That's really handy. It's a great feature, especially in the winter months when you really don't want to have to be fishing into the water by hand to try and get your robot out. And obviously the flexibility to be able to do the surface, the waterline, the walls, the floors, and have that eco mode where you can just throw it in there and let it be. And all the modes do work as you would expect. You know, obviously not all pools are going to work with that. So it's here, I've got this beach section right here with the stairs. That just gets beached as soon as you put it on waterline or anything like that. It just kind of gets to that point and goes, no, I'm not going to go any further, and you've got to get in there and do it manually. So I don't really have a great pool for a lot of those features. You may. If you've just got a rectangular pool with, you know, a ladder down one side or something like that, then you beauty, off you go. But yeah, with me, with the step down the back there and these, it just gets a little bit hard to use those features in the way that you really, really want to. Now, as I mentioned, the battery life's been really, really good. I'm really, really impressed by how many times you can run it. But the problem is, as soon as, sometimes I don't think I've ever let it just run once. I've always had to run it at least twice, and one time I had to run it 3 times to get the finish I was after. And when you've got the clarification unit inside of it, basically what happens is you just burn through 3 of your 4 clarification runs, just trying to get the pool clean once. And there's a few things in there that I definitely think I need to improve. I need to allow you to be able to turn off when it uses the clarifier and not, to make it really useful. So if you run the clarification agent on the first run, and it does its thing and puts some chemicals into the pool and tries to balance things out, do its job, then you don't need to do it again 2 more times in a row that day. So you should be able to turn it off. 2, in this day and age, with what we're seeing with the land-locked robots, so your robot vacuums and the like, at $3,500, I should be able to just cut this pool up and say, look, you know what? Don't try and clean the tiles, the waterline, you know, past this point here. Just stop there and just do that way. I should be able to map the pool in that regard and say, here's where the steps are. Don't try and climb up the wall here, and just be able to identify all that in the app so that it doesn't try and waste its time doing those things. And as I kind of showed, it does have a tendency sometimes to just get itself into a little bit of confusion and not do the whole pool, and just basically just go over the same spot for an hour and then go, okay, well, I'm done, when it's not. So yeah, in that regard, the performance side of it is hit and miss, and I suspect it will get better with firmware updates, but by the same token, I can't review it on what it may do in the future. I have to review it on my experience, and that is my experience. And also, I don't find it picks up the dust and sand as well as it could. It doesn't do a bad job. It does collect a lot of sand, it does collect a lot of dust. Like, I'm right near the coast here, and we get a lot of that in the pool, a lot of sand in the pool. In fact, you can probably see the colour of the sand in there, because the robot obviously can never get up here. Yeah, because it goes only as low as 150 microns, the filter, there's a lot that kind of doesn't get. So it does a solid job, but you know, a little bit finer on that mesh would have been appreciated. So overall, that's my experience with it, and it tends to do a really good job at picking up the stuff that it runs over, no matter what the size. So that's good, but yeah, it's just kind of got to run over it. And it doesn't blow too much debris away from it as well, which is also a problem I've found with other robots, is that there's so much kind of energy coming out of the robot that it pushes stuff out of its line before it gets a chance to pick it up. But you can already see just there, you know, it's run over that one spot there, and it's done a great job picking up everything in that spot. So it's just finished that run I put in for the purposes of talking about the review, and you can see it's done a pretty good job. It's missed a little bit down here, so it's definitely, again, like, it's just a bit hit and miss. It's not as thorough as I would have liked. There's a lot of wind right now. That evening storm I was talking about is come in, so it's blowing a lot of leaf in there as we speak. But yeah, overall it's a solid job. It's just not fully complete. So what are my final feelings then on the Beatbot Aquasense Pro? Look, as I've gone through in detail, there's plenty that is great about this robot, but there's also a few things that have really kind of underwhelmed me. And I think ultimately its issue is its price, because at the price that it's setting itself in that, you know, above $3,000 Australian mark, it really needs to just be flawless. It really needs to just hit the mark every single time. And definitely it offers a hell of a lot of flexibility with all the modes that it offers, the clarification agent that you can put in there if you want, the eco mode, the ability to do the surface, like it can do a lot. The issue that I've just come across too often is that it's hit and miss. Sometimes it does an all right job and you're like, oh, okay, it's done a pretty good job. Other times it says it's finished the job and you look at it and it just hasn't even touched half the pool. It tends to just get stuck a little bit, despite all its sensors and the AI mapping in there and everything like that. It doesn't seem to really get a good idea of what your pool is about, what its space is like, and it will ultimately, sometimes for hours, for over an hour, just focus on one area and then call itself done and leave half the pool undone. And then you'll go, okay, well, I'll throw it back in there. And when you throw it back in there, then it'll do a good job. But then if you've got clarification agents in there, it doses it a second time. So you're running through that really quickly. And also it's just not what you want. You just don't want it to be a case of, oh, I've got to run it multiple times each time. So yeah, it's a little bit frustrating. These things definitely get better with firmware updates. Like I've seen that with a bunch of the robots, not just the pool robots, but with the vacuums and other things that you'll find on my channel that I've reviewed. So it could start coming into its own a little bit, but as it stands right now, unless you've got the type of pool where you can use all of those modes, so you can use the surface, you can use the wall, it's not going to get beached on a beach like I've got behind us here, or it's not going to hit a step and stop on you, and you can just let it do the full pro run. Or if you've got a lot of stuff on the surface that you're going to be able to use with that surface mode, so you're going to really get the benefit of the flexibility of this machine, then that's when you're like, hey, okay, I can recommend this because it has got that flexibility that the other machines don't have. But if you just want to get anything off the, like basically just throw in the pool once a week, let it pick up all the leaves for you, then you're probably better off looking for something that's cheaper and in that sub 2,000 range, which is going to do a good job for those needs and potentially even do a bit better with things like dust and not get quite as lost as this one can do on occasion. So anyway, those are my sense. That's my sense. That's my sense with the Aquasense, Beatbot Aquasense Pro. Yes, like it's almost amazing, but it's just too hit and miss for me. I'm Chris Stead. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to check out those other videos, and until next time, I'll see you later.